Welcome to creating your Radiance practice to thrive and survive coping with COVID. This week, the message, you are made of the right stuff. That's right. It's all in you. The right stuff is in you. The right stuff to thrive, the right stuff to make it through this time, the right stuff to learn and grow, and the right stuff to overcome the obstacles that may seem insurmountable. May feel like, I just can't get through this. This is so difficult. But you have the right stuff inside of you for you to overcome any obstacle. Because you are the light. Within you is this incredible light. It's called life. And this light is the energy that grows trees, that blows the wind, that brings a thunderstorm. It's the light that casts light into our world from the sun or the moon. It is an energy. You are pure energy. In the past 2 sessions before, we went into your central pillar, the sword of light that clears all obstacles. We connected to your silent watcher. This is the eye of your soul, that all-observing mind without judgment. We found your core value and gave you affirmations to believe in yourself and to clear away the dark voices or the voices of sabotage, which you don't need. You don't need to have them. Unfortunately, when we spend a long time by ourselves, those voices decide that it's time to have a party, isn't it? They just come aboard. They say, okay, I'm now gonna tell you all the bad stuff. Well, you don't have to listen because you have your sword of light and you have met your spiritual guide, your ascended master or your angel that's right there protecting you and walking with you. You've got the right stuff. You've got it all. It's right there at your disposal. Our next step today that we're going to add is acceptance. Acceptance. Acceptance is a very important step to finding peace and serenity. Many times, the reason we have this struggle is because we have an idea of how something is supposed to look. And the reality is it doesn't look that way. And we might get mad or angry or despondent or go into despair because the movie we want to see is not the movie we want. But you can change that movie. You can. But you're going to have to work with the reality around you, and it may take some time. So whatever you place your intention on today, 6 months from now, you will see it coming into fruition. So making an intention for what you want your reality to be begins with accepting the reality you have. I don't know why that works, but it just does. And all of the ancient texts and the great prophets, that's what they all say. And you know what? It works. Something about accepting the way it is brings serenity. It's like you can drop in and begin to engage your heart and your mind into finding some solutions for change. But as long as you're grappling to change what is occurring, you go into struggle. And when you go into struggle, you're not able to access the right stuff, the stuff that's in you that makes you a powerful light warrior, the stuff that's in you that makes you a person of solution and idea, Now you may say, I don't have solutions. I don't have ideas. Yes, you do. I'm here to tell you, you absolutely do. They're right there. You simply need to look within. Go within. Ask the question. Go within to your central pillar. What is my solution? How do I accept my reality? How do I accept my reality? Now I will say this. Acceptance has another side to it, and this is very important. And that is, accept your reality, except when it is non-acceptable. When it's non-acceptable. So what does that look like? That means if you're in an abusive relationship, if someone's abusive, you can leave. You can walk into the other room if you can't get out of the house, or you can go next door, but you can get away. You don't have to stay there. That's unacceptable. Or if there is a gross injustice, you can and should step up as a spiritual activist and say, well, this is not acceptable. I may not be able to change the reality, but I can state that it's not acceptable and take action in order to change it. Do you see? But everyday life, for the most part, we have to accept, and especially during this time of COVID. Because as long as we're struggling and saying, this isn't what I want, anger will come up, frustration will come up, depression will come up, despair. Because you'll be wringing your hands going, why can't I control this? Why can't I control this? But that's the ego's voice. The ego is saying, why can't I control this? What I want is for you to connect into the soul voice, the wisdom voice. And what wisdom says is, this is your time to come to know me. This is your time to know wisdom. This is your time to feel my loving presence around you, because you don't have as many distractions. You're not having to go places. You're having to stay in one spot. This is the time for you and I to meet. This is the silver lining inside the dark. This is the light inside the dark. This is our time. And that is what the light is saying. This is what the presence of pure creation, the angels, the archangels, they're saying, this is our time. This is our time for you and I to meet. It is time for you and I to meet in the time of grief. So let's talk about grief. This is very important. You know, I was just reading, they've done a study. There's something called complicated grief. Complicated grief is a series of tragedies or losses compounding that someone actually has grief that goes on for years and years, and the brain gets locked up. It kind of goes into shock, like freezes. And it's very hard to get out of grief. I don't want this to happen to you through this whole period of COVID, because there's a long time and we are all grieving. Some more than less, depending on the amount of loss, but we are grieving a change in our reality, a change in how we do things. Will it ever go back? I lost a year of school. I don't see my friends, or I don't have my job. What career will I have? All these questions, we're grieving the loss. Well, the light inside of this grief is grace. This is our time to attach to grace. Because grace is a true presence, a frequency of possibility. Grace is hope, and grace is the faith of faiths. And when you enter into this, an energy comes, a frequency that does begin to change your consciousness, your awareness, and our reality. So how do you find grace in the grief? The first step is accepting your grief. Making it okay to say, I am grieving. You don't have to put on an act. You don't have to put on a false face, because that just causes struggle. Just accept, okay, I am grieving. This is what it looks like. Now, what do you do? Well, I can tell you the psychologist is saying we don't always know how to heal this deep grief. But I'll tell you what the ancient mystics knew. I'll tell you what the ancient shamans and sages knew, and the prophets. And it's in every tradition. What heals grief is sacred ritual, creating art, creating music, writing a poem, creating an altar and an experience is the only way to move through grace. For grace is so deep, you cannot intellectualize it. You cannot try to understand it from a scientific point of view. You can't even touch it. The only thing that touches grief is the ritual to bring you into grace. It is a deep process, a very intimate process. And now we're not able to gather, and we're not able to have the normal kinds of rituals that we might have. So this step for you is to create your own healing ritual. So what does that look like? Take a special place in your home or your room. Make it a beautiful place. Take some special object, something that have deep meaning to you, or perhaps a photo. Place a candle, even just a small candle. Place a candle. If you have any rocks or crystals or anything like that, place them there. Now, a scientific, materialistic mind might start to scoff, but the wisdom leaders are thousands and thousands of years old and much wiser than our new wonderful minds, which are so brilliant, but they're new. The ancient ones knew that when we connect to the natural world with our hands, our heart, our experience, that healing, that ritual heals us. So by having a connection with a rock or a stone or a crystal or a flower, that opens up your heart, your soul, to process grief. So make your altar however you want. And then you have your journal and write out what kind of ritual would be good for you. You know this, remember? You're made of the right stuff. Write it down. Perhaps you want to create a dance. Perhaps you want to write a poem. Perhaps you want to draw a drawing. Perhaps you take your stones and you make them in a certain area, a certain way. Play some beautiful music. Connect in prayer and meditation with your central pillar, your core value, the silent watcher. Create the altar of grace. And look within. For our next step is finding grace. So I want you now to close your eyes and look within. And begin to watch your thoughts. There they go, they're coming and going. So simple. Connecting into the sword of light, the central pillar, your core value. And now I want you to look in your heart. And there in your heart, you see the most beautiful pink and gold rose-colored flower. what is your flower? And I want you to look into this flower and you will see the softest, most beautiful light. And just imagine that you are falling into that flower. You're just letting yourself fall into that flower so peacefully until you are falling and falling through petals of light so effortlessly. And as you fall through your flower, you come to the most beautiful garden. This is your sacred garden. And here in this garden is every flower and every tree you love, surrounding you in peace. And in this garden, there is a small stream running with the softest sound. And here in your garden, your spiritual guide awaits you. As your spiritual guide leads you down a moss-covered path, we come to the most beautiful golden seat. And here on this seat sits Grace, the divine feminine. You may know her by many names: Guadalupe or Mary, Saraswati, Green Tara. You may recognize her in the comfort that you feel, this peace, this enveloping comfort. And I want you now to just move closer to her until you are there within her arms and feel her simply holding you and rocking you back and forth and back and forth. And feel this golden rose energy of pure love filling you, healing the grief, washing the grief away, lifting the grief out of you, comforting you, beloved human. Take this divine presence. Fill yourself with my love. Allow my love to wash you of this pain. Let this pain go. Let this pain go. Let it go down into that stream and wash away until you are just the most beautiful sapphire, this beautiful shimmering pink sapphire of light. This is your presence. This is who you are. We can let go of the burdens of life. We can let them fall away and align and rest in the arms of grace. Just allow grace to fill you and to heal you and to lift the grief into peace. As we say, I am the light of all that is. I am the light of all that is. I accept my reality, except when it's not acceptable. For I am in the light of grace. Grace guides me. Grace holds me. Grace lifts me up and carries me above the brokenness of life. Vitor Vayanyam Bargo Revasyadi Mahi Deo Yama Prachorea. I am the light of all that is. I am within and surrounded by grace. I welcome grace into my life. And I walk forward as my new beginning on the other side of this experience is waiting with open arms. Thank you. You are made of the right stuff.